Hi everyone, it's me again. I'm Lena, and in this video I'll be talking about my main video, which is the compact versus spongy bone. Now in this video I'll be talking about these parts. The first part is what is the compact versus spongy bone. The second part is the functions of it. Then next are the components, then the differences and similarities, and lastly I'll talk about its location and how to keep those two bones, the compact versus and the spongy bone, healthy. And to conclude the video, I'll be including a fun fact at the end. So let's get started on my first part, which is what is the spongy and the compact bone. So let's start first with the spongy bone. Well, the spongy bone is a porous, lightweight bone tissue inside the portion of the bones. It has a honeycomb-like structure, and it is formed by interconnected bony plates and rods called trabeculae, and we will talk about that later in the components part. So, moreover, the spaces between those trabeculae are filled with bone marrow. So red bone marrow specifically. That is the spongy bone. So think of it like a spongy texture, like a sponge almost. Like a sponge for your dishwasher. It has holes inside it, and that's exactly what the spongy bone is. Here is the spongy bone. Here's the trabecula, if you can see this. And yeah, that is the spongy bone. So in contrast to the spongy bone, there is the compact bone, which is the outside layering of the bone. So it is the dense outside white layer of the bone, and it makes up the shafts of the long bones or the diaphyses of the long bones and other layers of the bones too. So let me show you what that is. Okay, let me find. Here is the trabecula. Here is the, let me put this part. Okay, so here is the spongy bone, as you can see here. This is the inside, and here is the compact bone, which is the outside layering, and it almost covers every single part except for the articular cartilage, which I'll talk about later. So yeah, that is basically the spongy bone and the compact bone. So the diaphysis of the bone, or the shaft of the bone, let me find it. So here it is. So this is the shaft of the bone, which is the middle section of the bone, as you can see here. So this is the diaphysis, otherwise known as the shaft of the bone. So yeah, that's basically the first part, which is what is it. Now there are other names, like you have heard trabecular bone, cancellous bones, things like that. So let's identify between those names. So firstly, the spongy bone has other names, for example, the trabecular bone, because it has the trabecula, and also it is also called the cancellous bone as well. Next is the compact bone, and it's also known as a cortical or dense bone because it is dense. It is the dense outside layering, hence the name. So yeah, that is the first part, which is what is the spongy and compact bone. Next, I'm going to discuss about the functions of the spongy and the compact bone. So the functions of the spongy bone, firstly, is weight reduction, mineral storage, structural support, and hematopoiesis. So firstly, weight reduction. Okay, so you have heard me talk about the trabecula and things like that. So how does the spongy bone help with weight reduction? Well, one of those factors is the trabecular structure. Since the trabecular structure is porous and spongy-like, it has strength because it lines up and arranged in a way so that when you compress down the bone, it won't break or fracture. So it provides strength while being lightweight as well. So that is the weight reduction part. Next is the mineral storage. The spongy bone stores calcium and phosphorus, and also helps with homeostasis too, which we'll talk later in the compact bone as well. So those are the two main minerals that are stored within the spongy bone. Next is the structural support. So the trabecular structure helps to provide strength for the bone and also being lightweight. So the spongy bone are often located, as you can see in this picture, at the end of the long bone. For example, the femur or the humerus. So those are the structural support. It also helps with weight distribution because at that point it won't focus on just one point, but it spreads around. And yeah, that is the structural support. Next is the hematopoiesis. So this is one really long word, and let's talk about what it is. Basically, to summarize what hematopoiesis means, in short, it is blood cell formation. So that is the fancy name for blood cell formation. That is hematopoiesis. So those are the functions of the spongy bone. Next, the functions of the compact bone are protection, homeostasis, movement, weight bearing, stress resistance, and blood cell reproduction. So firstly, protection. Since it is the outside layer of the bone, it helps to protect the bone from outside physical forces, and with that dense outer layering, the inside part won't be damaged. So that is the first part of the protection. Next is the movement. Now, if you look at this picture again, there is the compact bone is the outside part, right? So at these ends, there might be tendons or ligaments that connect the bone to the muscle or the bone to the bone. So it will help with movement as well. I have a particular image here. So as you can see here, this is the femur, and here is the tendon, and here's the ligament. So it helps the outside layer helps to connect. It is where the ligaments and the tendons attach, so it will help to coordinate movement. So basically, that's strength. That is movement, I mean. So that is the site of attachment of the muscles, tendons, ligaments, etc. Next is homeostasis. Well, I've discussed in the last week about homeostasis, I think, and homeostasis is basically keeping the balance in our body, keeping the things in our body balanced. So the condition within our body must be balanced at any point, and that process is the homeostasis. So as I said before, the calcium and phosphate ions are released or absorbed in the bone that is for the compact bone. So for the different times of the day, So those are protection, homeostasis, and movement. Next is weight bearing. Well, weight bearing is supporting the whole body strength because there is the femur, and when you jog, when you just stand here, your whole body is focusing and depending on this femur so that you can stand on it stably, and so it needs to support the body's strength, and that is why there is the compact bone, so that the other bones won't just break. Okay, so that is the weight-bearing part. The stress resistance is withstanding the compressive forces and resist bending as well. Blood cell production is the blood cells, red blood cells, white blood cells, etc. So that is the compact bone and the spongy bone functions. Next, I'm going to talk about the functions. I'm going to put this away. About the components, the components of the spongy and the compact bone. So there is the trabecula in the spongy bone, trabecula, lacunae, and caniculi. There is also the endosteum, red bone marrow, and the bone matrix. So 6 main components. Trabecula, I have said what is trabecula. this porous part, honeycomb-like structure. This is the trabecula. Next is the lacunae. So, excuse me for a moment. I will find the appropriate picture for this. The lacunae. Okay. So the lacunae, if you're wondering what these words are, so I have this. The lacunae is the small spaces or cavities found within bone and cartilage tissue that houses the osteocytes. So this is the table of the definition and functions of the components within the spongy bone. So as you can see, there's the lacunae, which is the second part here. The small spaces and cavities found within bone and cartilage tissue that house the osteocytes. The caniculi, on the other hand, as you can see, there's also one part there, the caniculi. It is the microscopic channels between the bone tissue that connect to the lacunae. These channels facilitate the exchange of nutrients, waste, and signals between osteocytes, which is a kind of bone cell, and the bloodstream, contributing to overall bone health and remodeling. So here is a picture of the caniculi. So it's basically the ends. Of the osteon. So that is the caniculi, as you can see here. Those are the little tubes. Next is the endosteum. So the endosteum is different from the periosteum, which you have heard of. The endosteum is basically, so there is the periosteum, which is the outside layer, but the endosteum is the inside layer here, there. And there is the periosteum and endosteum. So they are both layers, but different from each other. The location is different from each other. Put it here. There's also the red bone marrow. We've all know what is the red bone marrow. And there's the bone matrix as well, which we have discussed in the last week about what is the bone matrix. And yeah, overall, what is the bone matrix? So moving on to the compact bone, there is the components of it will be osteon, lamella, bone matrix, periosteum, and Volkmann's canal. So we've talked about bone matrix and periosteum before, so let's move that out, and we'll focus on the osteons, lamella, and the Volkmann's canals. So basically, there is the Volkmann's canal here. Here is the Volkmann canal, and let me flip again the table. The Volkmann's canal, as you can see on the picture there's the circle. The Volkmann's canal is small channels within bone tissue that allow blood vessels. As you can see, there are the veins and the arteries within there, and nerves that provide nourishment, and that nerves to travel from the periosteum into the bone and connect with the Haversian canals. So the Haversian canal is this part, and this is the Volkmann's canal. So they have the bone, the blood vessels, and also the nerves to travel from the periosteum, which is the outer part. As you can see, I have shown that before, and into the bone connect with Haversian canal. That is a Haversian canal. So the Haversian canal, you might ask, what is the Haversian canal? Well, the Haversian canal are the osteons, basically. What are osteons? Sorry, I haven't talked about what are the osteons yet. This is an osteon. So, basically, an osteon is Haversian canal, another name for Haversian canal, are cylindrical structures, as you can see on this image. Cylindrical structures that provide strength and support to the bones while also playing a role in remodeling and repair. So as you can see, there's the osteocyte, which talked about nerve, osteoblast, osteoclast. There's the central canal. There's the lymphatic vessel, which are the tubes that that is part of the lymphatic system. There's also the artery, the vein, and lamellae here. This is basically the osteon. So this is an osteon in a different picture. There's the osteocyte, and this is the Haversian canal. So this is all of the osteon or Haversian canal. These are caniculi. I've talked about that before. And lamellae. What are lamellae? Sorry. Lamellae are thin concentric layers of the bone matrix that surround the central canal of the Haversian canal. So let me find a picture that has lamellae in it. Okay, so this is lamellae. This is the concentric lamellae. Those are the thin layers that surround the Haversian canal, as you can see here. Here's the endosteum. I've talked about this before. So yeah, that is basically all the components, just the main components of the compact bone and the spongy bone. That is the first mind map that I have. Moving on to the second mind map, the differences and similarities. So I'll read this aloud. I have this Venn diagram here. Spongy bone is less dense, and there are spaces between the tubercula. It is usually at the ends of the long bone. Reduces bone weight, provides space for red bone marrow, and distribute forces. So that is the function. Next is it is made of trabecula. That is the spongy bone. In contrast, the compact bone is very dense. It's the outside layer of the bone, and usually the shafts of the bone provide strength and protection and support, and also it is made of tightly packed osteons. So that is the compact bone. Those are the differences between the spongy bone and the compact bone. What about its similarities? Well, they are both bone tissue. They are bone tissue. They contain osteocytes, as mentioned before. They have vasculature, which is a fancy name for nerves, arteries, and veins. So those things. They have shared proteins like collagen and osteoids, etc. They contribute to the support and structure. They help to make the bone strong so that it won't fracture. And also they house bone marrow as well. So those are the similarities and the differences between between the spongy bone and the compact bone. So what is its location? So I'll cite this again. The compact bone is usually located on the outside layer of every single bone except for the articular cartilage region. So that is where the cartilage is. So it's like a padding so that the bones won't crash against each other, rub against each other, and that will wear out this part as well, the cartilage as well. So this is the blue part. That is the articular cartilage. So this is the articular cartilage around here. As you can see, there are not any compact bone outside here, but there is instead articular cartilage. So that is the compact bone. How about the spongy bone? Well, the spongy bone are at the ends of the long bones, as you can see here. This whole portion is the spongy bone. Next is they are in the interior of other bones as well. For example, the pelvis. So usually they are at the ends of the long bones, like the femur or the humerus, or they are the interior of other bones. For example, our vertebrae, which is part of our vertebral column, and also our pelvis, which is in this part here, our lower body. So that is basically the location. Lastly, I want to discuss about the ways to keep our bone healthy. Firstly, diet, exercise, and lifestyle. Three main things: diet, exercise, and lifestyle. So firstly, diet. What is in that part? Well, I need to take in calcium, reduce your sodium intake, eat magnesium-rich foods. Vitamin D, C, and K are both essential and all essential to bone health. So D, we can go out sunlight so that we can get some vitamin D for our bone strength and health as well. stay active, boost vitamin D intake, eat foods rich in vitamin C, eat vitamin K rich foods, all of those things I've mentioned in my mind map. For the exercise part, weight-bearing exercise helps to reduce the risk of osteoporosis, a type of condition where your bone is vulnerable to fracturing and things like that. So staying active is part of that. Some exercises including jogging, walking, swimming, running, things like that, and also playing sports like playing basketball, tennis, soccer, or even just if you don't have any interest in that, you can climb the stairs at your home or just run around the house to have some activeness in your body. So yeah, that is basically the exercise part. And lastly, the lifestyle. We need to look at our health and have a healthy weight. So not overweight, not underweight, but so in the middle, basically in the middle. And limit alcohol consumption or cigarette or cigarette intake as well. So limit smoking, and alcohol consumption. So if you do those things, those are the things to keep in mind of how to keep our bone healthy. And to conclude this video, I have one fun fact. Spongy bone, despite its name, is incredibly strong and acts as a natural shock absorber. So, as I said before, the spongy bone is, although it looks spongy, and it is spongy, it is incredibly strong and stronger than some of the small bones in our body as well. So it helps to remember the femur holds all of the body up. So it is the resting point where all of the body weight depends on it to stand stably. So yeah, that is the function of the spongy bone and the compact bone, just the main function, primary function as well. So that is all I have to say for my video of the compact versus the spongy bone. Thank you for listening to my video, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.